The Philippines is the largest Christian nation in Asia. More than 90% of Filipinos pray to the Christian God, who was first introduced to our ancestors 500 years ago, when Raha Humabon of Cebu and his wife Hara Humamay converted into Christianity as Carlos and Juana. The rest of the population are distributed among various religions. Around 6% are Muslims, 2% are Buddhists, Taoists, Sikhs and Hindus, and the last 2% pray to the ancient indigenous gods and goddesses, those who were here long before the Spanish arrived with the Christian God. There are many gods and goddesses of the indigenous Filipinos, but the most popular of them is Bathala. Many of us know Bathala as the Filipino equivalent of the Christian God. If, like most Filipinos, you grew up Catholic, you may have first heard of Bathala in the phrase bahala na, which essentially means Bathala will take care of it. Bathala is the supreme god of the ancient Tagalogs that covers not only the ancient kingdom of Tondo, but also what is now modern-day Calabarzon, Bulacan, Marinduque, and the southwestern part of Nueva Ecija. Some sources say Bathala is a gender-neutral god, but most historians believe that Bathala is a male god. He's sometimes called Bathalang May Kapal or Bathala the Almighty, or Bathalang May Likha or Bathala the Creator. He's a loving God who provides everything for his people, but he can get angry, and when he does, he sends frightening thunder and lightning to let his people know. To appease Bathala, the ancient Tagalogs couldn't pray to him directly. They had to ask other gods, called Anito, to intercede for them. The Anito are the assistants of Bathala. They are the lesser gods and goddesses, such as Mayari, Hanan, and Tala, the daughters of Bathala, and the spirits that live in the trees, the rocks, the rivers, and the seas. They were also the ancestors who have passed away into the next life. In some places, particularly in the mountain province, people carved small wooden statues that represent their ancestors. They pray to them, offer food and wine, and make sacrifices so that the Anito would intercede to Bathala on their behalf. Bathala is also part of the Bicol pantheon of gods, although he is treated as a lesser god. To the ancient Bicolanos, Bathala is the god of good luck. According to the Franciscan priest Mark of Lisbon, the ancient Bicolanos carried a small wooden image of Bathala as a lucky charm, or anting-anting. Further down to the south, the ancient Visayans sometimes called their supreme being Bathala. An ancient Visayan prayer listed in the book Philippine Literature from Ancient Times to Present calls Bathala the origin of all creatures. According to the Boxer Codex, a Spanish manuscript detailing the life and customs of pre-colonial Philippines, Bathala is an eternal god. He was here before the world began and will be here after the world has gone. In the ancient Tagalog creation story, there was no earth in the beginning, only sea, sky, and a magical kite flying around. One day, the kite, which was most likely the tigmamanukan bird that is associated with Bathala, grew tired of flying, so it decided to create some mischief and stir the waters of the sea. Agitated, the sea began throwing water at the bird, and that began disturbing the sky. The sky in turn started throwing huge rocks at the sea, which eventually became the numerous islands of the Philippines. The sky also ordered the kite to alight on one of the islands, where she could build her nest and bother nobody. That's how the world came to be, according to the ancient Tagalogs. Now, it so happens that Bathala wasn't the only god in the universe. There were actually two other gods, Ulilang Kaluluwa and Galang Kaluluwa. Ulilang Kaluluwa, whose name means orphan spirit, was a snake god who lived in the clouds. When Ulilang Kaluluwa found out that he wasn't the only god in the universe, he set out to find the other two to kill them. He found Bathala in Kalwalhatian and challenged him to a fight. Whoever wins becomes the supreme god of the universe. The two gods fought non-stop for 3 days and 3 nights. At last, at the end of the third night, Bathala defeated the snake god. Angry at his rival's audacity to challenge his claim, Bathala refused to give him a proper burial. He threw Ulilang Kaluluwa's body to the ground and burned it. A few years later, another god wandered into Bathala's home. Galang Kaluluwa, whose name means the wandering spirit, was a winged creature who loved to travel. He and Bathala became good friends for many years, until one day, Galang Kaluluwa fell ill. At his deathbed, Galang Kaluluwa instructed Bathala to bury his body where he burned Ulilang Kaluluwa's body. Honoring his friend's dying wish, Bathala buried Galang Kaluluwa at the spot where he burned his previous rival's body. Out of the grave of the two gods sprang the first coconut tree. Bathala noticed that the tree's long hard trunk was very similar to Ulilang Kaluluwa's long scaly body, but the leaves resembled Galang Kaluluwa's wings. He took the fruit of the tree and removed its husk, which he found to look very much like Galang Kaluluwa's head. At this point, Bathala knew he was ready to create the first humans. First, he created the plants and animals that would provide food, clothing, shelter, and their other needs. Then he married the land breeze and the sea breeze. Their marriage bore the first bamboo plant. One day, the bamboo was floating in the sea when it was washed ashore on the island where the tigmamanukan lived. It struck the feet of the bird, which got angry and pecked at the bamboo. The bamboo split in half, and out of it came the first man and woman, Malakas and Maganda, their names meaning strong and beautiful. The earth shook to herald the arrival of the first humans. Birds flew in and fishes swam in as the earth called upon them to decide what to do with Malakas and Maganda. The birds of the sky and the fishes of the sea decided that the two should marry, and so they did. Out of the trunks of the coconut tree, Bathala built a house for them. Malakas and Maganda ate coconut meat and drank coconut juice. They also found that they could weave the coconut leaves to turn into mats for sleeping, hats to protect their heads from the sun, and brooms to clean the house that Bathala built for them. Malakas and Maganda found many uses for the coconut tree, and these have been passed down through the generations to us, modern-day Filipinos. It's no wonder why we call the coconut tree the tree of life. One day, Malakas realized they had more children than they knew what to do with. He got fed up and took a stick to beat the children on their sides. The children fled to different directions. Some went to the hidden rooms and ended up becoming the noble class, or the maharlika. Some hid themselves in the walls of the house and ended up as slaves, or the aliping sa gigilid. Those who went outside the house became the timawa or the free men. And those who fled to the sea were gone for many years. When they came back as the white explorers who came to introduce the Christian God. But even when the Spanish friars began baptizing natives into the Catholic Church, many Tagalogs still called the Christian God Bathala. Some may have done it out of resistance, but most did it because it was Bathala they were familiar with. They also took many of their indigenous beliefs and blended it with Christianity. For example, the tigmamanukan, the bird closely associated with Bathala, continued to be seen as an omen bird years after Christianity took hold. The natives believed that if the bluebird appeared at the start of a journey and flew across your path from left to right, the journey will be successful. But if it flew the other way, it's best not to continue with the journey. The word Bathala comes from the Sanskrit word Batara, which means noble lord. The ancient Tagalogs were trading with merchants from India hundreds of years before the Spaniards came. The name of Bathala is just one of the many examples of Indian influence. But this is exactly the reason why a few scholars think Bathala may not be the indigenous name of the Tagalog Supreme Being. The Philippines' national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal himself, believed that the indigenous name was Maykapal. Isabelo de los Reyes, widely regarded as the father of Philippine folklore, shared the same sentiment. In his book, Barangay, 16th Century Philippines Culture and Society, Historian William Henry Scott says that the Tagalogs also refer to their supreme god as Molayari, which could be Mayari or Mayari, and Diobata, which could be Diwata, the name given to the gods and goddesses in the Visayas. The term Diwata itself also comes from a Hindu word Devata, which means deity. But what's in a name really? Whether we call him Bathala, May Kapal, or Bathalang May Kapal, it's clear that the ancient Tagalogs believed in the concept of an infinite supreme being, one whose essence still lives in all of us today when we are faced with risky situations and don't know what to do but press on anyway, because bahala na.